Rattler fans, welcome to the Talking Rattlers podcast. Soon to be followed by Talking Rattlers the movie, Talking Rattlers the musical off-Broadway. Coming to you from Amarillo, Texas. David Tovar, Brian Magloyan with me. What was supposed to be an 8-hour bus drive turned into about 14 hours in and out of that bus.
Definitely a long trip from the Alamo City, but fortunately we made it here safely, and now the girls and the rest of us are getting a well-deserved night's rest.
Yeah, well, no rest for the weary, and it's for us. We have a lot to talk about here on this Talking Rattler podcast. We'll begin with the reason we're here, women's basketball in the South Central Regional. Let's first revisit the game against St. Edward's on Saturday night. The Rattlers able to qualify into the regional despite losing in overtime of the Heartland Conference finale over in Laredo. They lost to St. Edward's, and that's a tough break, but as I wrote on Tovar's Take, RattlerAthletics.com, opportunity for a second chance, and the Rattlers are going to try to make the most of it.
Definitely. The Rattlers, a heartbreaking loss to our rivals from Austin, losing in overtime in the championship game. They were outscored 16-4 in the overtime period. Rattlers, though, got great efforts all around. Jackie Woods had a stellar performance, 30 points on the game. Kiara Etheridge pitched in 11 points to her name as well. The Rattlers just weren't able to sustain it long enough for the Heartland Conference Tournament Championship.
Yeah, I think St. Edward's probably just caught, lightning in a bottle at the most opportune time. However, they for their effort, they won the 8th seed, and they'll have to take on number 1 West Texas A&M. That's on Friday, right before the St. Mary's game. That's 6 p.m. And speaking of the St. Mary's game, number 5 seeded St. Mary's Women's Rattlers, they will be taking on Colorado State Pueblo, who is Brian. You got their numbers.
Colorado State Pueblo, 22-8 overall, as you mentioned, the number 4 seed in the nation. They played 30 games overall, and they average 64.7 points per game, which is an interesting statistic because the Rattlers, if I'm not mistaken, are right around the same area as well.
Yeah, and Colorado State Pueblo, looking at their numbers and their statistics, they have 5 players who score in double figures, which is pretty impressive. So it's going to be the challenge for the Rattlers to try to contain at least 2 or 3 of those 5 players who score in double figures. For the Rattlers, we talked about Jackie Woods, 30 points on Saturday night against St. Edward's. Desi Elias the night before, 26 points, career high for her. Woods being named to the second team All-Region for the second consecutive year. And then back to the tournament, Woods and Elias, I think, earning all tournament honors. Before that, Woods and Pullins earning all conference honors. I mean, so this team is coming in, and those 3 names that I mentioned, Elias, Woods, and Pullins, all those 3, the leading scorers on this Rattler team, and probably the most versatile, and that's been the Rattlers calling card, the Lady Rattlers calling card this year. The versatility that all those 3 have is going to be huge here in this tournament. And again, it's a classic toss-up game, 4 seed versus a 5 seed. Something's got to give.
Anything can happen, especially in a 4 versus 5 matchup. And as you mentioned, Woods, Pullins, and Elias, the 3 of them leading the team in scoring. Woods with 17 per game, Pullins with 14.4, and Elias bumping it up into double figures, 10.3 per game. So she has definitely stepped up her scoring. And as we know, throughout the course of the season, Woods and Pullins have definitely carried their weight with regards to the scoring load.
And remember, Rattler fans, that game is on Friday night, 7:30 Central. That'll be San Antonio time. St. Mary's Rattlers and Colorado State Pueblo Thunderwolves. It's a pretty fascinating name right there. The best of the Thunder and the best of the Timberwolves put together, I suppose. But the Thunderwolves, and that'll be Friday, 7:30. All the action, check out RattlerAthletics.com, the latest info. And myself, Brian Magloyan, the great Robin Johnson, will be here covering all the action. And as you've seen on the website, RattlerAthletics.com, all over social media, at St. Mary's Rattlers on Twitter, on Instagram as well, Facebook.com/St. Mary's Rattlers. We were at practice, and yeah, I mean, we talked about 14-hour bus ride, and we got to hang out with the players, and it's a bunch that they're cool and calm and they're laxed. But when it's time to get down to business, as we saw in practice, they can do exactly that.
Oh, definitely. These players know when it's time to lace up their boots and go out and do work, but also they understand that there is time to relax and wind down and get yourself ready for a big game like Friday. This is a national tournament, big game opportunity. Few get this opportunity in their lifetime, so these Rattlers, I feel, are very prepared, well understanding of the situation. It'll be interesting to see how they perform this Friday.
Yeah, and stay tuned all weekend, Rattler fans. We're going to have interviews with some of the players. We'll have them on video. We'll have them here on the podcast. We'll have them in game stories and all that coming to you via rattlerathletics.com, this website. So stay tuned the entire weekend. We'll switch over. We'll move our attention from Canyon and Amarillo, Texas, a little further north to Denver, Colorado, where the men will be playing. Our very own Chad Peters and Kayleen Zelzniak, they'll be taking off with the men's team tomorrow, I believe 4:30 a.m. And we were talking with our trainer, Nathan. He said it's snowing up there. So I think we, though we survived a 14-hour bus ride. I don't know if I could have braved those elements.
No, well, snow is not necessarily common in San Antonio.
So it's in Colorado.
So for a guy like yourself, being a native from the Alamo City, I completely understand. I wouldn't have minded seeing snow, but nonetheless,
from Jersey.
Nonetheless, I'm really glad to be here covering this girls' team as well.
Well, the men, they'll be taking on also the men are number 5 seed. They'll be taking on the number 4 seed Colorado School of Mines, and it's a tough draw for the Rattlers. They are the number 4 seed, and on top of that, they're number 9 in the country. And they come in with a very impressive record.
The Rattlers, as you mentioned, an impressive record, 19-8 overall. The Rattlers have done a great job this season, averaging 71.6 points per game, holding their opponents to 68.4.
But even more impressive is Mines' record.
Yeah, the Mines have a 24-4 record as well, so something has to give in this matchup.
That's another one of those matchups that it's a 4 and a 5, but the Rattlers are going to have their work cut out for them. The men will against that Colorado School of Mines. They're a top 10 team in the entire nation. They're number 4 in the region, so that's how stacked this region is. 5As stacked, very stacked South Central region that both Rattler teams are going to have to combat through. And we'll just see how it plays out here. We'll have more reports as we continue, but go ahead, Brian.
And as I mentioned, the Rattlers so far this season giving up 68 points per game. Colorado School of Mines are a high-scoring team. They average 87.1 points per game. So something has to give in this game. So
the Rattlers are going to have their work cut out for them.
It'll be interesting to see whether defense or offense prevails.
Yeah, it's a classic case of the 4 versus 5, and you mentioned that's another dynamic. Classic case of offense versus defense. What's going to give? Of course, we'll talk to our colleague and our El Jefe, Chad Peters, tomorrow. We'll have him on the phone. We'll hit him up on the horn from Denver, Colorado. He'll give us some insight as the trip and day 1 of their proceedings as we are wrapping up day 1 as well. Well, that should about do it here on the Talking Rattlers podcast. Brian, anything you want to add?
Well, nothing more than just stay tuned for more information and content. We're going to be keeping you all up to date on the happenings here in Amarillo and Canyon and, of course, in Denver, Colorado with Chad and Kayleen. So just stay tuned and enjoy the ride.
Indeed. We're going to try to get some rest as well. Early morning, late nights. It's the life. Remember, Rattler fans, rattlerathletics.com. We're on Twitter, twitter.com/St. Mary's Rattlers, at St. Mary's Rattlers. We're on Instagram, at St. Mary's Rattlers, and, of course, on Facebook, facebook.com/St. Mary's Rattlers. For Robin Johnson producing us, Brian Magloyan and David Tovar, this has been a presentation of rattlerathletics.com. We thank you for listening.